The ATA Chronicle is the flagship publication of the American Transit Association. It's a professional magazine filled with the latest news and information about our industry. But you know, it didn't start out that way. When the Chronicle was first published back in 1972, over 40 years ago, it was a modest collection of black and white pages held together by a couple of staples. A small team of volunteers put it together back then. As time went on, the Chronicle transformed into a colorful, glossy magazine with imagery and advertisements, and produced by a paid staff. At the turn of the millennium, the Chronicle joined the digital age when ATA added an electronic version so members could read it anytime, anywhere on our smartphones and tablets. But many members still prefer leafing through its familiar pages. Last summer, then ATA President Caitlin Walsh wrote in her column that, quote, "All along the Chronicle has reflected the zeitgeist of our industry." Now those of us who eagerly anticipate each issue couldn't agree more. We look forward to the latest news from the ATA, from the ATA's leadership. We look forward to our favorite columnists and the many different experts who share their knowledge and views with us in each issue. Now for me personally, it's a regular reminder that I'm a part of a huge and vital industry. And it's quite a significant benefit of being an ATA member. The Chronicle recently took the next step in its evolution. The look and feel, the frequency, and the content changed a bit. Maybe you've asked yourself why these changes took place, or how did they come about, or even how does it benefit me? Today we're going to answer all of those questions. Welcome to the ATA podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Matt Baird, and you're listening to episode 4. In this episode, we're going to learn about the ATA Chronicle Task Force, which was put together last year to look for ways to make the magazine better and reduce its cost to the association. You know, a team of volunteers put a lot of time and effort into this. It's a great story, so stick with us. Don't touch that dial. You know I've always wanted to say that.
It was definitely an intense 6-month process. The Chronicle Task Force, which was Jeff Alfonso, Chris Durbin, Sandra Burns-Thompson, Tom West, and myself, dove in with the goal of presenting a new plan for the Chronicle within 6 months, and we did achieve that goal.
That's ATA President-elect Corinne McKay, who at the time was an ATA director and became the chairperson of the task force, which is a special committee appointed by the ATA board.
So at ATA's board meeting in Chicago in November 2014, I proposed a task force to investigate ways to improve and update the Chronicle, our flagship publication, while also finding ways to save money. The board approved it, and off we went. So ATA Treasurer Ted Wozniak's cost analysis of the Chronicle showed us that the magazine was consuming about 23% of ATA's dues revenue. And although the Chronicle is a significant benefit to our members, and it's a benefit that is provided equally to every member across the board, the task force felt that we could cut the magazine's budget significantly while maintaining most, if not all, of the benefit to our members. This seemed to us like a win-win. Money and staff time could be freed up for other programs, while our members could continue to receive the magazine, but with a wider choice of formats and a wider range of content.
We'd been looking into ways to revise the Chronicle for a few years. We had offered members the option to switch to an electronic version. We tried reducing the number of pages. We tried using cheaper paper, etc., to cut cost, all of which we did, but it wasn't really enough. And Ted's cost analysis made that clear.
That's current ATA President David Rumsey, who at the 2014 board meeting in Chicago had just become ATA President-elect.
When I became the President-elect, I brought up the idea of changing the Chronicle during what the board calls our study day, which is a day before the January meeting when we look at items informally without making any specific committees or any specific commitments. The energy that came out of that meeting prompted Corinne basically to propose a special committee which came to be known as the task force, to look at more significant changes to the magazine than what we had done before.
The task force worked through a number of phases over 6 months before presenting its final report to the ATA board.
So phase one was all about gathering information. We started interviewing a diverse group, which we called our focus group, from within the membership to get their opinions about the Chronicle. We wanted to learn what they loved and what they didn't. It was also important for us to get some suggestions and ideas for improving the Chronicle. And we found that those conversations led us to a lot of brilliant ideas that we would not have achieved otherwise. While all this was going on, ATA headquarters sent a reader survey to every ATA member to gather even more information about the Chronicle. Then in phase two, we reviewed other translation industry magazines, and we started to get a clearer idea of what the new Chronicle could be. First, we saw that many associations are moving away from producing a print publication every month and are combining sort of less frequent print issues with an enhanced online version. We also saw that many associations include a lot more coverage of association issues than ATA has done traditionally. So, for example, upcoming big decisions, what events and conferences the officers have attended on behalf of the association, what the board of directors is working on, what key issues the association is facing. Based on feedback from our members, we felt that some of these changes could work really well for us too. And at every stage, we tried to focus on ways to save money while either maintaining or improving the benefits that our members get from the Chronicle. And we then presented our final report at the April 2015 board meeting in Alexandria.
The task force had done their homework. They conducted a focus group and benchmarked other associations. Now it was showtime.
We made 16 specific recommendations for revamping the Chronicle, and we divided these into recommendations with and without budget implications. Our main cost control recommendation was to publish the Chronicle 6 times a year instead of the current 11 times, beginning in July 2015. But don't worry, the print edition of the Chronicle is not going anywhere, at least right now. We'll just be publishing it less frequently. Our main content improvement recommendation was that an editorial board be formed to provide the Chronicle editor with additional ideas for content and author contacts. And ATA board member Jeff Kobe is now the chair of that editorial board, which meets about every other month.
David, was the board receptive to the task force recommendations?
Yes, definitely. We definitely saw that although the Chronicle is a benefit that's provided to every single member, it was becoming too expensive. And the look and the feel and the content also needed to be revitalized.
Now, going from 11 issues a year to 6 is quite a big change. Why make it so quickly?
Well, it was not an issue that we took lightly or rashly. There were strong opinions about paper versus electronic and about the frequency. So cutting the number of copies while increasing the number of electronic versions seemed like a good compromise. We could actually provide more content at a lower cost. That made the vote a little easier.
Okay. Now the 6 issue per year rhythm began with the July-August 2015 edition. What else has been implemented in the 3 issues since then, Corinne?
So the cover art is now something related to the Chronicle content. We have more advanced content inside the magazine. The online flipbook has been replaced with a more modern digital magazine format, although the popular PDF format is still there. And we have lots more online content, including the Chronicle archives online.
Now, David, what's your assessment of the outcome so far?
Well, actually, we get a lot of compliments on every issue, and it's been really, really rewarding. My assessment is not as important, actually, as the assessment of the members, and you can read some of those in the letters to the editor in recent issues.
Well, allow me then, as a member, to give you my assessment. I think it's a great improvement, and I also find the new system much easier to consume. We're all sort of in information overload nowadays, and with all the other reading I do, the 6 issues a year sort of works for me. And I like the combination of the fewer issues and the more regular updates in the news briefs. That was welcoming. I welcomed that change. And of course, I'd say the icing on the cake of all of this is that you're saving the association a lot of money, which can be applied elsewhere. And I think that's a huge benefit that the membership out there shouldn't take for granted. We all shouldn't take that for granted. So I'd like to take this opportunity in today's podcast to thank you both and all the members of the task force for volunteering your time to make the Chronicle a better publication all around.
Thanks, Matt. I'd also like to thank Corinne and everyone who's involved in that effort, both the staff and the members. I'm really pleased. I'm sure the board is really pleased with the outcome.
Thank you both. It was definitely quite the journey.
Yes, it was, and thank you both for sharing the story on the podcast today.
Thank you.
And thanks, Matt, for all the time you put into hosting the podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you're thirsty for more, you'll find our first 3 episodes at ATA's website, atanet.org, as well as ATA's YouTube channel. And do you have an idea for a future podcast? Is there something about the ATA you would like to know more about? Write me at podcast@atanet.org. And we'll consider doing a podcast about it. Send me your thoughts and tell me what you think of the podcast, or just say hello. I'd love to hear from you. Special thanks to David and Corinne for their editorial support with this episode, and as well, a big thanks to Mary, David, and Roshan Pakarel at ATA headquarters for providing input, advice, and technical support. Thank you very much.